Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-ohger episode, almost said episode 45. So this episode was one of those ones that takes you by surprise, because it kind of seemed like it was going to be more of a fun filler-ish episode. It kind of reminded me of back in the day when King-ohger would have an episode preview, be like, oh, next week's going to be kind of dumb fun. And then it ended up being a pretty important episode. It was kind of more like a B-tier episode, not in terms of it being bad, but it wasn't like involving major big plot stuff, but it was more like the character-driven stuff, but it was like the good example of what I want out of filler. Like, I wouldn't call this filler, you know what I mean? But it doesn't waste time. It's not just, you know, spending time with nobody characters or not learning anything. It was valuable time spent. Like, the whole idea was, I mean, first of all, the beginning of the episode starts with them trying to figure out these new powers that they got, and Rita and Kaguragi both mess up with their powers, with Rita's being frozen and then Kaguragi's being fire. And then you get into the like meat and potatoes of the episode where you think this is what it's going to be about, where the monster, I don't remember the name, the Husk guy, I'm just going to call him Husk, you know, he has the ability to like turn them into kids from before when we did Kid-ohger, but this time he can transform their minds back into like a child state rather than their bodies. And he has red, yellow, blue, and then Rita's retainer as well as Kaguragi's sister. And like that makes you believe, like again, in any other Sentai, the episode would just kind of focus on the hijinks of these characters behaving silly. Like you literally basically just have Yanma, you have them literally just acting like babies throughout the episode, and instead of it being about that hijinks, it's literally just to sideline them. You do have kind of a funny bit with Gira where as a kid he's now acting like Hotaro. He's kind of acting like, not like a baby like the other two, but like a younger kid, and there's kind of a funny bit about Rackley's needing to take care of him like a bigger brother. I did think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. It might not have fit in this episode because the focus was on Kaguragi and Rita, but that almost would have been a cool character-driven opportunity to have the Bonders, I almost said the Bonders brother a little bit. The brothers bond a little bit, like because they didn't really get to grow up together after they were separated. So I don't know. I thought that's what they were gonna do too, but that was mainly used for comedic relief the couple times they flashed back. The main like drive of it wound up coming down to actually it being a Rita and Kaguragi focused episode, and actually drawing parallels and similarities between them that I didn't know were there, because it largely revolved around a discussion they had earlier in the episode of, you know, we need to learn how to use these powers, but also, if we don't win this fight and we don't come back, we're going to need to choose a successor. And of course, Kaguragi wants to pick his sister, and Rita wants to pick their retainer. And that ends up being pivotal to what happens here with this flashback, or not flashback, brain back, or whatever you want to call it, where you find out about Rita's retainer's past, where you find out they were actually the children of criminals, and they were picked up as a criminal, and they want to, you know, prove themselves as basically overcoming their past by becoming the successor. But when they're flashed back to the earlier time, all they really care about is like, oh, you know, we want to have lots of food in our stomach and comfort, which is why they're like, okay, we'll transfer you to Tofu as a citizen. I did find it a little bit weird and like unnecessary that they were legitimately considering like these people's fate while they were under this spell or whatever. I'm like, you know, as soon as the Sentai filler plot is gone, their brains are going to be fine. I don't know why they were talking about this status quo as if it was permanent, because if you're treating their brains being back 10 years like it was going to be permanent, you're in deeper trouble because your other three teammates are like 3 years old in their head. I thought that was kind of silly that they actually took it seriously, like their brains were never going to change back. But it was used to great effect because it was used for a character-driven reason of like why Rita would hand over the mantle, and Kaguragi sort of letting go and letting his sister be with someone she truly loves, which is Rackley's, which was really nice because they showcased that his sister would give up her happiness for her brother and for her kingdom, but this allowed Kaguragi to let go and to let her, you know, have her own destiny and choose someone else. And then, you know, having Rita be the one to actually choose successor in the retainer. And I am curious because they did put so much emphasis on, like, you know, this was a big deal about Rita being like, I want you to be the successor. And we know Rita's probably not going to die in the finale. So that makes me curious if maybe after the finale, Rita might step down, because they have had the retainers take up the mantle before, and they also have made a big deal several times in the series about what a burden it is. Rita even says, I don't want to put that burden on them. I'm curious if that might actually happen. If, like at the end of the series, maybe even if it's not permanent, Rita might get a chance to step down and live their own life a little bit, and maybe that's why they're making a big deal about it. It's not unheard of to have an episode where you like prepare for a character's death and be like, oh, you're gonna take up the mantle or whatever, and then it doesn't end up happening. I just felt there's a lot of focus on this, and like I said, a lot of focus as well on Rita having this burden of this role that maybe at the end they might get to take a break and choose a successor. I don't know, but it was just so surprisingly great. Like, again, I thought this was just gonna be dumb fun, and like when the episode started with the hijinks, I'm like, were we really doing this like episode 44, 45, whatever? And then it wound up being a really deep episode about these two characters and like their retainers, which I'm surprised how much time the series has spent on the retainers as well, because I didn't know they cared that much about dental health. I guess they do talk a lot about protecting people's smiles. Also ends up like kind of tying back to the beginning of the episode with them trying to use their powers individually and they get hurt, and then when they use them in tandem, they work together, because basically Kaguragi is able to keep things warm enough so Rita doesn't freeze themselves when they use the power, so it shows, obviously, kind of a less cheesy way of showing obviously it's stronger together, and that will probably come through when all 5 of them, 6 of them use their powers together. So that was less cheesy than our powers come first, smile and teamwork. Like, they literally showed how it worked better. And so that was really cool. Like, lots of little things. There was kind of lots of little things happening in this episode, and they all kind of lined up. Overall, just really good, solid episode of King-ohger that reminds me why I really enjoy the show, because it really surprises me, because even in a filler episode, I know it's not filler, but I mean, in an episode that's not big plot stuff and you think it's going to be like, oh, just a whatever episode, it ends up having a lot of important character stuff and plot stuff as well, as it's a stepping stone in this storyline about their new symbol power. But what did you guys think of the episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.